Shut up and sit down.
It's where the big boys play. SICW.
This is one where you tag with Waco. This is where at the Fireman's Hall you were taking on Trent. And again,
Tagged with
Trent.
Waco?
Huh?
So he tagged with Waco?
He did.
I don't remember that.
Didn't you break Jim's ring?
The Bulldog did.
Yeah, Kenny broke it. Weren't you wrestling Waco?
Yeah, a little bit.
I actually think it was Waco that broke it. You know, Kenny just threw him into it, and then the force of him throwing him into it broke it.
Yeah, from what I saw, Waco was just trying to have a conversation, and Kenny lost his cool and threw Waco, and he landed on it.
See, from how I remember it, Waco decided to hit me in the chest, and we don't take no disrespect around here because Mama raised us with a little bit more respect in ourselves than that. So I had to respond in kind.
I don't know. That guy's a jerk anyway.
Waco's lucky you just didn't take the turnbuckle and start hitting him with it when it popped off in the ring anyway.
Hey, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
idea.
a good prelude, yeah.
Any means necessary.
It doesn't happen, though.
All right, welcome to the Spirit Ring Podcast, everybody, episode 98. And before we get into it, we have a special guest, the Iron Pitbull, Kenny Kingston from New Breed Wrestling. That's your home. That's your home, right, Kenny? New Breed?
No, my home is Kcxw down in Kansas City.
Yes, because you're good friends with El Diablo, right?
Yep, he's actually one of my trainers, one of my mentors. I get to pick his brain a lot. Whenever I have a question, he's always ready to answer or just give some type of insight that he has, just because he's been through a lot more than I have. So being able to pick his brain just really quickly is always really fun.
I'd say, does that have any kind of hurdles to it, because you guys are pretty different styles?
When it comes to things in the ring, yes, there's a big difference in terms of styles, but when it comes to just psychology and just thinking on how to set up moves or just how to set up a sequence, he's very good about being able to break it down to where I can understand it. And then if we were walking through it, he's very good about tying in the small nuances just to make the experience just a little bit more better. And so I really value his ring psychology and just the way that he thinks, the way he can set things up. I think that's very important, and I'm really grateful that he is the one person. I'm more than one person, but just one of the people in my life that's able to do things for that.
Have you had any thoughts about switching to the lucha style?
You know what? I might switch to a Bruiser door, Bruiser, big boy, lucha. So I mean, if he can do it,
we're going lucha. We got.
Try.
Man, the mask you could come up with for the Iron Pitbull too, with a lucha mask, that would be freaking awesome.
It's El Diablo has a good mask connection, so I might hit him up and get a mask at some point.
We've had El Diablo on a couple times now, and yeah, definitely a cool guy. I'm gonna take you to the back though. So, growing up, before you got involved in the wrestling, what made you a fan of wrestling? What got you started? Was it a particular match or an organization, or?
Of course, it was the big guys, the people like John Cena, Randy Orton, and all that. But the one guy that really got it, that really caught my attention, oddly enough, was Rey Mysterio.
Wow.
Out of all people, Rey Mysterio was the very first guy that I'm oh, this looks really cool. Me being half Hispanic and then seeing that representation on TV and him not just being the guy that gets beat up all the time, him actually winning and being successful. When I joined, it was 2010 is when I kind of got into wrestling. 10, 11-ish. So he wasn't world champion then. It was a little bit after that. But seeing him was the catalyst to me becoming a fan, just because of there's representation of half of my culture over there and doing it big, and then it kind of like snowballed from there.
Okay, so I got a question, and I ask everyone. And since you said Rey Mysterio, are we talking WWE Rey Mysterio, or are we talking WCW Rey Mysterio?
Oh.
What were you a fan of?
He said,
Uh,
"Man, that's WWE."
yeah, WWE. I didn't start learning his stuff until after I got really deep into wrestling, like actually learning who people are, learning the things that they've done, and actually like sitting down while watching the documentaries, reading the biographies and stuff like that.
Okay, another one though. What about Eddie Guerrero and his it was his nephew, right? I can't think of Eddie's nephew's
Chavo.
name.
Oh, Chavo.
Yeah. What about them? Did they influence you at all, or was it just the mysterious of the mask of Mysterio?
It at the beginning it was the Mask of Mysterio. But then when I kind of going down the rabbit hole of Rey Mysterio, like seeing his tag stuff with Eddie Guerrero before Eddie passed away, that got me into tag team wrestling. I couldn't tell you really what match or what move, what sequence I saw that was like tag team wrestling is like my favorite thing. But seeing the I guess the fluidity of it, I guess you could say, that made me kind of be like, oh, tag team matches are like the coolest thing ever. A lot of people like will disagree with that, but I feel like tag team is definitely it's an art upon itself within like the business, because everything we do is technically art. But to put on a great tag team match or being just a good tag team, having that chemistry, having that charisma, like Eddie and Ray did. Like to me, that was something special, something like I've never seen like before in any sport. I'm like, I grew up playing football, basketball. I used to be a swimmer. I kind of did a little bit of just different things, and like just seeing that difference was just like mind blowing to me.
All right. So,
Say, man, you said 2010 and talking about representation. So I just Googled WWE's roster in 2010, and there were not many. Not in that time already.
Because I think it was like Eddie, Chavo, Del Rio, I think just debuted around that time.
It's not even showing him on here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's few and far. You got the Carlitos first run in there. But there he is. Yep, Alberto Del Rio too, and that's about it.
Well, I mean, to be honest, they're probably lucky that they had that many. Because there wasn't that, through the whole 80s, it was just Tito. And, that was the only representation basically that you guys had in there.
Well, I mean, to make it even worse, this is going through Raw, SmackDown. They had ECW and NXT all at this time.
Yeah, see, that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, Eddie Guerrero is fucking. I mean, he's the best one around. I think. I mean, the emotion that he can get out of people, I think is just incredible. And I think that was one thing he probably had over on Ray, because wearing the mask, it's kind of hard to show more emotion. And I think Eddie was able to pull that off a lot better. All right, so going from a fan, how long did you stay a fan until you were like, I can do this, or I want to do this, I want to try to do this?
Man, I don't know. It was very quickly when I was saying to my mom and dad, "Oh, I'm about to be a WWE superstar. I'm about to go in and win championships." Like it wasn't very far and few in between of becoming a fan and being like, "I want to do this." Like it was always about the matter of how of doing it, because like the documentaries, they're like, "Oh, I had to live in my car. I was homeless. I didn't eat." I'm like, I don't know about all that. Like, I like having a roof over my head. I like having three meals a day. But granted, today it's different. There's more resources for it. So I don't got to be homeless.
The Texan did a match 6 hours away for expired McDonald's coupons.
Dang.
Yeah, it was a little bit crazier back in the day. Not to make myself sound really old, but even Bobby here has done some crazy shit because as soon as you get into wrestling, all you want to do is go everywhere, wrestle for everyone, and sometimes you get told you're gonna get paid one thing, and you get there and wrestle, and you get paid totally something else, yeah, one time it was worse, And the thing is most of the time I would have done it for free, but it just pissed me off that the promoter told you one thing, and then you know they give you the envelopes, and it's pretty much a backstage rule. You don't open your envelope in front of anyone. That way no one knows what everyone is making and stuff. And yeah, you open your envelope and it's McDonald's coupons, and then you look a little closer, they're fucking expired McDonald's coupons.
No.
Yeah, so wasn't the
No.
best time there at all, but
Now, what's better, to be like duped like that, or like the pizza farm we went to where we drove all the way out there, and they said, "Oh, the audience isn't here. You guys aren't getting paid."
yeah.
What?
We've been around the block a little bit.
That is crazy.
I
So when
say,
did you get
cherish
okay.
the good promoters like Herb that will honor it no matter what.
That's true. When did you start to get involved? When did you start training? How did you find out that you could train for this? Because a lot of people, a lot of places hide that. That's still a secret. You don't train for this, but how did you find a place to start training at? And if you know the time frame, when did you start?
I started training like the second or third week of January back in 2023. So at the time I was working at Amazon. I've been there for 8 years at this point. Been in management for the past 6 or 7 while I was there. And then a friend of mine that's actually a wrestler as well. His ring name is Psychotic. He used to do backyard wrestling, and he was like, "Hey, bro, I'm thinking about starting my promotion again. You want to do it?" I'm like, "Bro, I got no training, but I will love to actually do that." Because me and him would talk wrestling like the whole day if we had the time to do so. And so I asked him one day because it was a while since we had that conversation. I was like, "Hey, bro, are you still wanting to do that?" And he's like, "Actually, dude, I found a school in Raytown, bro, cheap. Like it was like $35 to try out, $25 for the class. Like it's a credible school. Like the people are cool." Because by that time we had this conversation, he was already there for like I think like either like a month or a couple of weeks, but he already had like some footing ahead of me in the training. But he's the one that introduced me to the school, and I did the tryout. The tryout was different than I thought because I was genuinely stressing like, am I gonna pass this tryout? Are they just gonna look at me and be like, brother, like you too big, you out of shape, da 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 da, like go somewhere else, like kind of thing. Because I mean, being a bigger person, that's kind of always in the back of your mind is like, are they gonna see me and be like, oh, this dude ain't like either in shape enough or whatever the case is to do said sport or to do said activity. That's always like a thing. Unfortunately, being the bigger person, like, but they told me that the trial was just to get a basis to see what they could work with.
Yeah.
And I used to play, like I said, I used to play football, basketball. Like so I know I used to lift weights. So I kind of already had like a little bit of an edge in terms of athleticism when it comes to people my size, just because I'm so used to having to move with explosion and stuff like that. Granted, it ain't like it used to be. My knees ain't as good as they used to be, but um, but then it just went from there. I went to my first class. Stepping in the middle of the ring was just like so surreal. Like I never thought I'd be able to do that. So just like if I would have stopped then and there, like I'd be like, you know what, I could die happy. Like I stepped in the middle of a wrestling ring. Yeah, and then like from there, it's just history.
Well,
Yeah.
this match here was last year, early summer last year. And I don't know, you look pretty spry and flexible. Even for a big man, I mean, hell, all the big
Thanks.
men in this promotion more flexible than I am.
Man, it amazes me that you're so young into this business. I thought, be honest, I thought you'd been around for a while, but you've only got a couple years in, huh?
Yeah.
Man, so technically the world is still your oyster. You're still young enough, and that's probably why I seen you at WLW a couple weeks ago.
Mm.
And of course, you work for SICW. I'm sure you work for your Kansas promotion. You work for New Breed. I seen a couple matches you were wrestling for. Was it IWA? I think that was. But yeah, so you're getting around. You're trying to make the. Are you trying to make this like a career? Are you trying to go to like an AEW or a WWE sometime in the future? Or
Definitely would have make this career. Like, as much as I love working in the cannabis industry, like making like wrestling being a full-time job would be like an all-time dream of mine. Um, I I'm just trying to think, like, trying to make this a career, like, would be definitely where I would want to go. But I don't know if I want to go to like a top promotion, like at least right away, like how some people kind of shoot for. I like the idea of me. I want to wrestle like in all 50 states. I want to win a championship at every promotion I work at, just at least once. It doesn't have to be the main title or anything like that, but just a championship and being able to represent and show people like people that look like me, people are built like me, people that see themselves in me, like there's someone that's doing, but maybe they're a little too scared to take the first step, and seeing someone like me being like, you know what, maybe I can really like do this, and maybe I can be the one to inspire the next generation for whatever reason. Like I kind of want to do that. Like I want to wrestle in Japan. I want to go to China. I want to go to Germany. Like I want to wrestle all over the world. Like before going to the big spot. Now, if they call me tomorrow and they're like, "Hey, you want a spot at NXT?" I'm not gonna say no. Like that'd be crazy.
of course not. Of
But
course not.
ideally, I would want to do the traveling, kind of like the Matt Cardona thing. Make yourself on the indies, so when they call you up, like you have more control over like who you are as a character, your direction, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of direction, do you see yourself more as a heel or a baby face? Because in this match, you're a heel. You're with that Punk Waco.
I personally like being the heel. I like being the bully. I think part of it does stem, like my whole life I've always been the giant teddy bear. Like I'm, the smile. I'll give you a good hug. I'll make sure you're okay. Like so, being able to play the bully, kind of get that side of me that I never really got to explore growing up because I was always bigger than most of the other kids around me. So it was always, be careful, Antonio. Like you're bigger than them. You don't want to hurt them. So having to stay in that like teddy bear-esque kind of like realm of feeling and just like being able to show being able to show the other side is like it's very fun. Like I won't hide that I love being the bad guy, but being the good guy does have its advantages too. So
Of course. Now, do you remember back when you had your first match? Were you scared? Were you anxious or anything like that? How did it go for you? Did it go the way you planned it?
Definitely anxious. Like the whole like butterflies, like my stomach turning, like the whole XYZ. My first match was at a taping. So our tapings for Kcxw are now Checkpoint. They used to just be like a weekly like YouTube thing that we shot. It was against Blair Dior, a good friend of mine. So being able to have my first match with him was really cool. The funny thing is, we broke the bottom rope in that match too, which is the greatest thing, and we don't even know how it happened. Like we rolled into the ring and it just happened. And we're just like, what?
So, now I've been
We've
in
got a history
matches.
of it.
I've been in matches where you break the top rope and you just carry on. Did you just carry on with the rope being broke?
Oh yeah, we just carried on like I said, I got him back in the ring. I came through the bottom, like between the bottom and the middle, because the way our practice ring is, that's what we use for the tapings. Um, it was just an easier way to get in without looking kind of clunky.
Yeah.
Um, so I was able just to slide in, and then the moment I stepped through, it just fell, and we're like, okay. And then we kind of like, it was towards the end of the match anyway, because it was only like I think 3 to 5 minute match, so it wasn't anything like too long.
Okay.
So we were already going to the finish, and just laughed about it. That my first match, I broke the bottom ring, so that's pretty fun.
When did you get a tag match going?
Um, my first tag match wasn't until it was our first like show we like, or it was the last show of the year of that year. It's called Excellence. I did a tag match with James Moore and the Wrecking Ball Mason against some other students that were already like getting to that level of graduating and being presented as wrestlers.
Uh-huh.
That was my first ever like tag match in front of like an actual audience. I was on the heel side. It worked out pretty well. Got the fans to react the way we needed to, at least in my opinion. Definitely can, like, I watch it back sometimes and I could just be like, oh my gosh, like the green mistakes are just insane. Like I still make mistakes now. Don't get me wrong, but like seeing how blatantly they are, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy, and this is out for the world to see.
Uh-huh. The reason why I asked is, being one of the trainers at Ace, we normally pair like a new graduate or someone who's getting close with a guy that's been in the business for a while, and have them. So you started out different than what we try. We try to start you out as a tag team. That way, when you're new and you forget what to do, or forget a hold, or forget something, you can always tag out and get the veteran back in there to carry on through the match, and then he can tag you back in when you start realizing, oh, this is where we are at, or this is what we got to do. So I mean, it's just different ways of overcoming. Because when you first have your first match, it's like throwing you out to the wolves.
Yeah, it definitely
swim
is.
type of thing. At least this way, we give you a lifeline. So
I'll say it gives you a little bit of mentorship with it.
yeah. But it seems to do well. I mean that's what we did with Brandon Beretta for a while. Before he started having single matches, he was tagging with Bob, or he was tagging with another guy. Until Joey came along, and then we felt Brandon was far enough where Joey can attach to Brandon, and then they can work together. But still, you have that option to tag out and get someone else in there and carry on the match. But yeah, so that's definitely that was the reason why I was asking. But so where do you? Man, you've only been in the business a couple of years. That's just crazy to me. I mean, you're really good, and for being so new to the business, that's just shocking. I mean, you must have picked it up really quick. How long did it take you to graduate?
It took me a little longer than normal, because normally the track record is usually around 4 to 6 months. It took me a little longer because part of our graduation, like things that we need to do, is get or having a match on one of our shows in our home promotion, and getting 2 matches outside of the main promotion, and then you go through your exit I think it's like called an interview, but you call 2 matches, one with a vet, one with someone who's green, and you take a written test.
Wow.
So
What's the written test?
it's honestly just more about like etiquette and stuff like that, like the do's and don'ts, what the core values are for the school, like safety, respect, discipline. What do you do when you show up to a new promotion? Like shaking everyone's hand, figuring out who the promoter is. Kind of like don't like cause a scene, don't like be outlandish, kind of just be professional. Like
Right.
you don't have to be, oh, hi, I'm so and so. Like I have been wrestling for that. Like you ain't got to do all that. It's hi, my name is so and so. Like you kind of
I'm
just keep
better
it
than
moving.
all of you.
Maybe that Waco character, but uh, so you've been wrestling a couple years now. I mean, we're into a brand new year. So what does 2025 look for you? Where do you see your
Um,
future?
part of my future is definitely I want to definitely venture out for more promotions. Like definitely kind of stay rooted with the ones that I am at now, just because I love the environment. I love what I'm learning from the people around me. Even just watching matches, like that's just a good like learning thing for me, and being able to see quality matches every time I go to every promotion that I go to that I'm in right now. That's just learning that I'm just taking in. I do want to wrestle for like other promotions. Like I want to go up to St. Louis for like Anarchy. I want to go to Glory Pro. I want to kind of go to mid states and stuff like that, mid South. I want to go to Memphis. Like, I want to travel down to Texas. Like, there's just so many places that I want to try to go to for 2025. Granted, it's all about money and
Right.
time and XYZ. So maybe all these goals might not be feasible for a year, like within a year, but those are like the goals that I want to get to in terms of traveling. Um, in terms of the promotions that I'm in now, kind of like what I was saying earlier, I do want to like win at least a title. In the promotions that I'm at. Like I'm a champion at New Breed right now, but technically I wasn't part of the two that won it because we're in a faction. So we're doing the Freebirds rules.
Bird Roll, yeah.
Yeah. I've defended it. So I mean, I to me after I defend the title, it's like it's like it's mine. Like I
Yeah.
did it. But I definitely want to win a title like on my own, like singles or another tag. It doesn't matter. Just kind of just starting to accomplish that goal. Um, and then just making sure like putting on quality, like more quality matches, because like I mean we've all had that feeling where we probably didn't put on the best of match, and it's just like that black kind of like feeling. And like, I'm not saying like I put on bad matches last year because I think I did pretty well, but wanting to take it a step further, because the match I had with Tobias Storm at the beginning of the year kind of opened up my eyes a little bit of like something that could happen, because we got a really great reception for that match. Like, I was even asking like all the vets for notes and be like, hey, what could I have done better? Like what in this instance this felt a little weird, like what could I have done better in this to make it a little bit more smoother. And a lot of them were generally just like, I have no notes, like that was a great match, like you did well, it was a great pace and this, that, and the third. So hearing that from the people that have trained me, the people that I've gone to for advice, and they're like, no notes, brother, like that was great, like that
Mm.
really set my eyes open to like I can have more matches like this. I just have to like just keep changing my way of thinking, not staying in one way of my match is gonna be A, B, C, like being able to be open to be more fluid, and being okay with being uncomfortable, because like that's definitely is like a big thing that they told us in training, and still tell us like be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because there are a lot of moments where I'm in the ring and we're like transitioning to like the next spot or what have you, and it is a little awkward. I'm like, what do I do? Like,
Right, right. So give us a story of like the worst match you ever done. What went
ooh.
wrong?
um Man, I mean, I can't say like it was like the worst match, but it was definitely one I've had at I think it was my I mean, I can't really remember where it was at, honestly, but it was just one of those small little matches that I kind of just got pulled, like I got pulled into. Um, I think it was just timing or something, like the up, the like the down and up for the lifts, the just the way the match kind of flowed. It felt kind of clunky. It was back when I first started, so it wasn't
Of course.
like it wasn't like anything here recent, but it was just one of those like I got thrown into the fire, and unfortunately, I personally don't feel like I swam. I feel like I kind of sank.
Mhm.
But I still take it as like a learning opportunity. Um, and
Definitely.
definitely part of it was what I did learn in that match was protect my size. Because when I first started, I was very big about, hey, I'll bump for you. I'll do whatever you need. Like, I'll take any move. I'll do this. I'll do that. Like, I was very eager to be like, bro, I will bump for you and I will make you look like $1,000. I swear to God. Like, because one of the things that I was told when I first started was, hey, a lot of big men don't like to sell, don't like to jump, don't like to do this, don't like to do that. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be that big man. I'm not going to be the big man that's not going to sell, that's not going to jump, that's not going to make the other person look good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, so that was very like, so I need to bump for everybody. So, like, so during that match was very like, hey, protect your size. Like,
Yeah.
stop
Uh,
bumping for every little move.
that was one of my biggest problems too, because when I first started, of course, I was bigger than everyone, and yeah, that was my big problem is I wanted to make them look good. I always think of it as the Ric Flair match, because when Ric Flair was, the NWA heavyweight champion, his goal was to go to a territory and make their top guy look great. And then at the end, he gets something happens and he gets the pin. He keeps his belt. He goes on to the next territory. So
Mm.
that was my thing, even though I wasn't even the champion at the time. I wanted to make them look great. And then at the end, like something happened where my size eventually took it over and I got the pin. And then, and I would do stupid shit too. I would do a backflip off the top rope and I would do, the top rope drop kick and stuff like that. And then, they're like, no, you shouldn't do that stuff. And then I always got a lot of people complained, you don't hit hard. You got to hit harder. You're a big guy. You're a big brute. Hit hard. And but that's also kind of changed from like the olden days to now that they back when I first started, you had to put everything in there, and I was trained that way. Everything was put in on me. When you got trained, they were there to beat the shit out of you to see if you're going to come back the next day. Training is not quite like that anymore. We want everyone to succeed as long as we see something in you that you can, go on with. And it's totally two different ways of training nowadays. I talk about it a lot because, I remember going into my training and you would be the guy in the middle and they would just give you clotheslines all night long. It was just clothesline. And, you're training also in a group of like 20, 25 people. So, eventually you swapped out and you were one of them giving the clotheslines. But man, if you ever take 25 clotheslines and you got to bump perfect each time, everyone is like, when you get up to like 10 or 11, your bump is not great anymore. And so now you're taking these clotheslines and taking these bad bumps. And now you feel like shit the rest of the night and sore the next day or for the next week, but that was the mentality back then. They wanted to see if you had enough in you to come back the next day and do it all over again. It wasn't like, oh man, you're going to be great. We just need to work on some things. Let's work on it, and be friendly because there was no friendly back then, But yeah, that was everyone kept telling me, you need to hit me harder. And now I'm to the point where I have to tell most of my opponents, I'll apologize in the back. Because I'm sure you're going to get hit at least once really good. So,
That's it. I can assure you, I never had that problem with you. I don't know if it's because we trained together or what. Like, it always seemed like you lay them in with me, but watching you didn't with others.
Well, we're related, so I was able to take a little bit more on him, beat him up a little bit harder than everyone else.
I was an ass when we wrestled too.
All right, so, you kind of leaned already on your favorite match. Was that the match that no one had anything for you? Because I forgot the guy's name you said. But the one where
I have a YouTube ready to watch.
Oh, was that your favorite match that you had?
It definitely is like one of my favorites. I've the way I kind of see it is like when it comes to favorites, like if I have like kind of like fun in the match, like I've had fun in all my matches, but there's very few and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this was really fun. Like I said, the one with Tobias was really fun. When I had the match with Hector Del Toro down at Skill, um, we were both still like pretty green at that point because I think he only has like 2 or 3 months ahead of me. But for some reason, like even we had like our hiccups, like that match was still really fun. Yeah, there's just a handful of matches where it's just like I had genuinely had fun, and so that what makes them my favorite matches.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we know you got the skill because I'll just be honest with you. There's a lot of people that get invited into SICW, but there's not a lot of people that get that return invite. Where you've had that return invite plenty of times. As a matter of fact, I talked to Herb today because I wanted to see if you're on the card. Was it March 1st? But he said that you already had a booking or something like that. But we definitely talked about you today about getting you in more because you were able to come in for a TV taping and you'll be on the next couple of Sundays with us. But I'm interested to see when you come back, so it'll be cool.
Yeah, when somebody's new, they'll come and ask me how to look on TV. Is it somebody we should bring back? Just for our opinion. You have to look good in person and on TV.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, a lot of people get in there and they don't like they don't pay attention to the crowd. They don't try to invite the crowd into their match, and that's like one of the first things. Where's my dogs at? And so I mean that's I take it. I don't take it. A great example, however you want to say about Glenn or whatever you want to say about Glenn Williams. He can be a heel, he can be that, but he can talk. And he talks very well, and he gets those people either riled up or cheering for him, either way. But he can talk that crowd into whatever he wants. And
I don't think I've ever heard him get the fans to cheer for him.
I threw that in there because I just wanted to be the polite to Glenn Williams.
I still think everybody who's listening, when they go there on the first, need to yell 51st State when he comes out. And when Sean comes out.
Well, he's not the Canadian. He's just a sympathizer.
Yeah. He's just
treason is treason.
All right. So you talked about Rey Mysterio is what got you hooked on the wrestling. Now that you're into wrestling, who do you look to? Who do you watch? Is there anyone current, or is there anyone that you go back into the history of wrestling and watch and try to pull from?
There's definitely a handful of people. So when I first saw Calvin Tankman on Glory Pro, like I didn't know who he was, but I saw his match with Camaro Jackson, like one of their first encounters, and just seeing the way that Calvin and Camaro Jackson, seeing the way they both move, like that was very like eye-opening to me as well. So like Calvin Tankman does the pounce. I've took that from him. I was like, I'm gonna use that. Like, I just set it up differently, but I for a while I was trying to try his back elbow quarter roll into a splash or whatever. Like mine didn't look as crispy as his, and so I was like, let me put this on the back burner. I don't need to hit this every match, kind of or deal. Jake Alpha 2 was another one from MLW. That's when I first saw him when he was with Contra. Granted, I can't move like Jacob, but seeing him do the movesaults and the dives and stuff like that, like that kind of lit a fire into me. Like, I need to learn at least one or two top rope moves. It doesn't have to be anything like flippy like he does, but something, you know. Same thing with Keith Lee, Willie Mack, Tejano. I go back and watch Mark Henry, like Big Show, like, you know, like all those big guys. Like, I feel like there's always something that I can take from each one of them and kind of being able to incorporate it into the way that I wrestle.
Yeah, definitely. We teach the students, it's okay to pull different moves from different people, because you start creating your own version and your own way of getting in and out of the situations and everything. We tell them too. There's two things that I preach. One, if you go to any new organization and tell them you know how to chain wrestle, they know that they'll get a good match out of you. So we, teach the students how to chain and what matches to go back and try to pull from. A lot of the black and white old 60s, 70s matches are very easy to pull, like a section of chain wrestling. That way, if the ropes break, and most guys nowadays, if the ropes break, they're screwed, because they want to use the ropes so often. But if they happen to break, can you still carry on a match? And so that's why we preach chain wrestling. And then I also tell the students too, not to discount the ladies, but a lot of ladies matches, like early 90s, like Attitude type of era, those ladies that worked that time period were getting trained by men. But you can tell in their matches, they were a little bit slower. They weren't as fast paced as the men wrestling was. So it's easier to break down the women's wrestling to pull moves from. But yeah, definitely you got to take a little bit from everyone until you realize, oh, I can do this a lot better, or I can take this and make it look totally different, and then that could be my move set. So I always wondered, because some people, through my whole process, I've been in the business probably way too long, but I've seen people just like take all the move set from one person, and whether Jeff Hardy was the big one back in the day, and literally there's a guy on not the current roster that we have, but on a different organization who only did Jeff Hardy moves, and I'm thinking, man, you got to change that shit up, but sometimes it works out for you, because I've seen on YouTube, people are dressing up as Kane, and making a living out of it, with their own little spin, whether it be cocaine or
game,
whatever. But I know it's most people say it's a tribute. Oh, I love his moveset so much that I want to do it, but it's almost crossing that line of being like a poser or something. Like you're just stealing from that guy, versus you're tweaking it and making it your own. And that's what I like to hear that you even said. You had to put that on the back burner until you can master it and tweak it and make it your own. So I mean, that's just, if you ever stop, let me rephrase that. You never stop learning in this business. And that's also what makes your matches different too, and makes, not everyone can pull off a Hulk Hogan moveset and be great in this business, or a John Cena moveset and be great. A lot of people have to work at it, but
sure.
So I'm still trying to learn how to chain.
This is a guy who teaches kids how to wrestle, so he knows how to chain all, that's crazy.
I coach in high school now too.
Yeah, so you definitely know how to chain.
Collegiate wrestling team.
So have you have you ever wrestled one of your trainers? You ever had that student, teacher match yet?
Has the
Um,
grasshopper become the sensei?
yeah. Let me think. I don't think that I have really. Like, so one of our trainers, one of our newer trainers, is Dr. Eisen.
Oh,
So
okay.
I first met him at Tri-States in a Royal Rumble. So I don't know if we would want to count that as going to, wrestling him, but I got to encounter him the first time there. And then Tobias Storm is one of our trainers as well. So being able to wrestle him, Diablo, I've had him in a triple threat and a couple of tags. So I got to do that with him, and like I said, working with Diablo is one of the, I hate to say the word easy, but it's one of the easiest things because it's your typical David and Goliath. Like, I tower over Diablo by a couple, like
Right.
almost by like a foot, almost maybe more. Um, so like being able to work with him for that was always really fun. I think at some point at New Breed, Shooter Shailin is now back from injury. She's been back for a couple months now. I think she's gonna cross our path with the SOB at some point. So being able to do that. Harlock Hal Rogers is another coach, and I got to wrestle him on one of our tapings actually, and that was really fun. He hit me with like I was seated down, and he hit me with like a jumping like drop elbow drop or something like that, and the reaction to that was really cool. So even though I was getting beat up by one of my trainers, just getting those reactions with him was really cool. So I hope in the future, me and him can do like an actual match because I had that match back when I was a student. So students are just there to put over the guys that are already there.
Right. Right.
So hopefully I get to run the ones with him for real, and he put on a really great match.
So one of my trainers was the Exterminator. This is way back in, about 20 years ago. And I was wrestling him, and he was my coach, my trainer for a long period of time. And we wrestled one day, and he was wiping the floor with me, of course. But then I felt something going across my forehead, and I had no clue that when I was training with him that he had false teeth. And what he had done is he had taken his teeth out and was grinding those across my forehead.
What?
And I was like, what the fuck was that? After the match, and then he popped them down and showed me. I was like, you son of a bitch.
That is crazy.
Yeah. It's, as hard as it was training back in the day, if you're not having fun, why are you in here, So even though they trained you like a hard knock style, it was still fun, and I still love every one of them, and and they beat the piss out of me,
Yeah.
but it was great times. All right, so what's next for you? What's your next show? You got something going on the first? What is it?
That's gonna be the first new breed show of the year. I have Austin Muatalo for the New Breed Heavyweight Championship.
Nice. Austin's been on the show a couple times too. Wow, that's going to be a great matchup there.
Yeah.
Man, he's one of those that can do chain wrestling and fly at the same time. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
How long has he been the champion out there?
Well, he's been U.S. champion for a fat minute. He just beat Teeter for the heavyweight title late last year. So like not the last show we had, but I think it was like the show before that or something like that.
Okay.
He's been that. I got to wrestle Austin Muatalo before he beat Teeter because his whole storyline was he gets through all the members of SOB, then he gets a title shot at Teeter, and that was the final the final boss before getting to the boss.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So are you still part of the tag team champions out there then?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
it's me and Lord R2. We hold the actual titles, but with what creative direction that I've kind of been getting told from Scotty and from Austin, um, we might, like I said, we do the free bird rules, and the O'Neill brothers are part of our staple. So me not two might be giving them the tag titles to defend while we focus on some singles
singles.
titles.
So there's 4 of you then, huh?
So it's the O'Neill brothers, myself, Lord Out 2, Caden. We just added him to the group.
Oh wow.
And then our manager, Money Mike, and then I don't know if I said Teeter yet, but Teeter is our like our leader.
Now that's nothing neater, Derek Teeter. Is that
Yes.
him? Wow. So the last time I see him, we wrestled a couple times, and then I think it was his knee he fucked up,
Mm.
and that was at a ECW show that we were both on, and he screwed it up. I didn't know he came back, so that's kind of cool. Because after he screwed it up, I worked for New Breed, and he was just on the sidelines, trying to sell merch because he was. I don't know if he had something going on where he had a lot of people showing up that day because he was supposed to be, I think the main event. But then since he had previously screwed up his knee, he was still there, because all the fans that showed up for him was there. So he was selling merch and everything. But at that point, I kind of fell off of like the New Breed. I kind of quit traveling. I'm getting old, so I'm not quite traveling as much to work. I'm more interested in traveling to watch, because that's, I seen you at WLW. I was there to watch, Lilith Khan and Attila and Brandon Beretta. I was there mainly to see Brandon. Because I just want to follow his path, make sure he's fucking kicking it. That'd be one guy to kind of hitch a wagon to, and because honestly, I feel probably within this year he is going to be signed fully to the NWA, probably without a doubt, because I know he's on the pay-per-view next month for him. But so have you worked for WLW yet, or were you just trying to get on the card that night, or?
I knew I wasn't going to be able to get it on the card that night, but it was just more kind of just to show face, introduce
Get the foot
myself,
in the
the
door.
whole 9 yards. The guy kind of just being available with whatever he needed. I kind of stayed kind of where you saw me at. It's kind of where I stayed most of the show. So kind of within earshot of him if he needed something, and then kind of just wherever.
I mean, that's always smart. I've always showed up, and like Gary Jackson always says, wherever you go, if it's a wrestling show, bring your gear. Because you never know when someone's not going to show up, and that's when you get your break. So I'm a firm believer in that, because there's a lot of times that we weren't on the card, me or Bobby, and we just showed up just to watch the show, and then you get put on the card. So it's the best way to do it,
Yeah, that's how I got my 2 bookings at IWA. Like my very first 2 matches outside of the not my very first 2, but like the first set outside the company. I just went down there with Jude Weiss because he's a ref down there. So I just went down there just to say hi, kind of just introduce myself. And one of the guys didn't show up, and they were like, "Oh, Sid Holland needs a tag team partner,"
I
and they were
watched that
like,
match today.
"Oh, there you go." So you saw pre-singlet Kenny Kingston.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name, but El Diablo used to have a travel mate, and he brought his stuff with him, and he ended up on an East Grindelette show because he had his stuff with him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. What I was gonna say, man, one big guy to another big guy. That is fucking awesome that you even did that. I have always been a plus size dude, and that would scare the piss out of me if I didn't wear a singlet. We talk about body shaming type things as big guys and overweight big guys. I know for a fact that my belly is not hidden. It's out there.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that you're able to do that. I mean, to me, that's one up on me because I couldn't, But that's awesome. But yeah, so I've seen that. Well, who was Scar? Scar is the big guy on that other team that was wrestling you. I've known Scar forever. But yeah, so that's cool. So you want to branch out, go to Texas? What do you know what organization would like to work for, or is there just you just want to go there because you know it's a hotbed?
I just want to go there because it's a hotbed. I do follow. I think they're called like Future State Wrestling or something like that on YouTube. Like I don't follow them like too heavily because they don't post a whole lot of like full matches and stuff. They just do a lot more like highlights. But I forgot what I saw that drew me to them to subscribe and kind of just sit down and watch. I think it was just one of those, like when I first started, I was just watching a bunch of different indie stuff, and they just happened to come up, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna keep up with them. Like, and I still kind of do when I have time, but like I know that's one of them that's down there that seems pretty hot because like, every time I see their videos, like their crowds are always like up on their feet, like they're ready to go. So.
So one of our buddies, James Beard, he is part owner of a promotion out in Texas. You remember the name of that promotion there, Nate?
Texas Strong Style.
Well, no, that's the style of wrestling.
I know, but isn't it something like that? I haven't talked to James in a bit.
That's true, but Brandon had brought up that he always wanted to go to Texas, but he didn't have any connections. I said, boy, you do have connections. I said, know James Beard. And so he reached out to James Beard, and he's been to Texas a couple times. So I think James Beard is coming back to SICW in May for our Fan Fest. So hopefully you're booked on the Fan Fest, and then you can meet him. And the best thing about Fan Fest, I think, or even like a Cauliflower Alley or the Tragus Luthez show out in Iowa, it's just to make the connections, because that definitely gets you going to other places. I caught Memphis on YouTube. I watched their shows. And I like their setup. It's almost like a flashback to the old school '80s TV that they have going on. But there's a lot of places out in Memphis to wrestle at too. But man, so that's awesome. Hopefully you get to spread the wings and go to all these places. Hopefully you got a great car.
Yeah. I think it's gonna need some tune up for sure. Like I've been going like a lot of places with it, so I might need to do some finessing,
Yeah. Brandon, when Brandon Beretta was first coming around, he was driving this big full size. It was a Chevy truck, but I said, man, you need to trade that in and get like a Ford Escort or something like that, because you're going to be burning so much gas. And that's what he ended up doing. He ended up selling that truck and getting a small little compact car, because the roads that we travel trying to do this is just crazy. Just from SICW down to the New Breed, that's like 3.5, 4 hours. And that's like, that's one of our closest promotions. So, he used to come on a lot and complain about having to go from Ohio down to Tennessee, back to Ohio, then back down to New Orleans and wrestle out in Louisiana. And I was like, man, that's the price you pay,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's either two ways to get seen. You branch out and you go everywhere you can, or you just happen to be at the right show at the right time with someone in the crowd that has the connections that you need. But more power to you. I hope to see more things and bigger things from you. Before I let you go, what other championships have you won? Is it just right now just the tag team champions, or have you won something else anywhere else?
I've only won the tag team champs. I've been a contender for a lot of titles, especially last year. But unfortunately, I was never the one going over. But I did contend for a lot of them, and I think that put a lot of just eyes on me in terms of the promoter, like Scotty. Like my very first match for him was I got thrown into a triple threat match for the television championship, and the people like I was a face when I first debuted, and I turned later that night.
Oh, damn.
Right? Like talk about a swerve. But the people were really like behind me, like they were chanting with me. They were doing what I needed them to do, and then even now, like part is the SOB, like we're a heel faction, but I'm still over with the people in terms of out of all the SOB like members.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was kind of like my thing going, because me and Waco used to tag. We both dressed similar, both in hoods, both in camo. And regardless of whatever we did, we can do the most heelish thing possible. And they cheered me and booed Waco. So eventually we had to break up and go our different routes and stuff. But yeah, so it's amazing what the fans can do. And it was just something. And I've had so much better. I love being a heel, just like you do. I love being that heel. But yeah, the benefits of being a baby face and going that route just worked out so much better for me.
Mhm.
But, all right, so it's almost been an hour. We don't like to go over an hour, taking your time away. It kind of goes quick, don't it?
Yeah, like spread how fast like it went by.
Yeah. So March 1st, it's New Breed Wrestling. Who you got? Who you going against?
Austin
Oh, yeah,
Muatalo for the
Austin
heavyweight title.
Malatello. All right,
It'd be a good match.
so guys, go to New Breed on Facebook. I view them a lot. Your YouTube channel is Iron
Just the Iron Pitbull.
Iron Pitbull. Now, people, you got to support local wrestling. And we talked prior to taping this. This gentleman only has 66 subscribers. The best way to help him out is subscribe and share everything that he posts. Again, we just talked about how it's so important to get your face out there to be seen, but it's a like an easy backdoor type of way when you help him out by sharing his stuff. Because you might be catching it in Texas and sharing it to your friends. Now there's a whole section of people in Texas that know the Iron Pit Bull. So definitely check out his YouTube. You're on Facebook. You got a couple of your matches, couple of your pictures on there. So check them out on Facebook. And is that the whole name, the Iron Pit Bull, Kenny Kingston?
Yep, the Iron Pitbull, Kenny Kingston.
I say Andy's got the Iron Pitbull YouTube channel, which is where I have the Kenny Kingston versus Tobias Storm match pulled up.
Well, thanks for listening, Bobby, because I just said that. But it's okay. Another
I didn't hear you say YouTube.
plug. Well,
I'll take it.
Right. I appreciate you. Well, we appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast. It does go quick. So maybe after you win your first, title, hopefully from Austin, we'll have you back on later on, and you can tell us all about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. It was really great.
Yeah, awesome. All right, sir. Well, you have a good night, and we'll sure to probably post the results of the March 1st show so we know how you did. So, go as much as we like Austin, go in there and tear him up.
Hey, I'll do my best.
All right, sir. You have a good night, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you. You guys have a great night. Be safe out there.
You too.
You
See
too.
you, sir. That's awesome. I like him. He's just got one of those smiles that make you want to see him.
Yep.
He's a
And
pretty good
it's
dude. I've talked to him a few times.
OV or OVW, right? For James Beard.
No, OVW is where Brandon has been going a couple times. That's Ohio Valley
OWA.
Wrestling.
Sorry, OWA.
OWA. What does that stand for?
I don't know. It's also Southwestern SEW Fury. That's all the stuff that James has on his account. So I don't know. You got to text him.
Yep, I'll have to see what because I know there was 2 different promotions that he always talked about, and I know one is kind of working together with the NWA, and that's what Brandon was saying, that they got picked up, just like how WLW got picked up. So now they're branded the NWA, and then what their previous branding was. So yeah, we will have to find out for you, and we'll post that in there. All right, Bobby, quick question.
Yes, sir.
Get your box?
I had it last week, but we had some other topics going on. So,
Well, perfect. This is your favorite session right here.
Son, where'd you find this?
Oh,
I got
it.
Mustafa Ali brawler, but micro brawler. Got. I think I actually already had this poster. It's the Brody Lee and Moxley one.
Man, they doubled up on you.
Well, I get the overstock box, so it kind of doubles up every once in a while anyway. Like, I have a few of the same autographs. Adam Copeland rated R pin, like shirt pin.
Okay. Not to cut you off real quick, but did you see over the weekend that AEW was in Australia? And he came out to the ring. They only played a portion of his music, but the fans carried on and sang his whole entrance theme. That is awesome. I mean, I would love to get to that, point in a career that they could just sing the whole. I mean, the song I come out to is pretty popular, so they already know the words. But
people can sing your song; they know it.
Right.
Got the Bullet Club gold patch. I say a Mercedes Monet sticker.
Oh, that one's gonna be a classic there.
You gonna put that above your bed?
The new autograph.
Is that Mufasa?
Mustafa.
Oh my God, Mufasa.
And then what I'm actually the most excited for, a lot of these boxes, like the shirts, I haven't really liked, but I finally got a good one with New Japan.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that is a nice one.
I say I got the New Japan one and the D'Lo Brown ones are probably my favorite shirts that have came in these boxes.
Nice. I would like to probably get involved in one of those boxes. I don't know if the overstock one or just want to go strictly with a WWE one. But it'll be kind of cool to have it set up where you automatically get something. But I do like to search and find and pick out things that I want. So we did have the flea market here in Belleville last weekend, and I was able to run out there real quick. No LJNs this week, so my nothing to add to my main collection I'm trying to build. I did grab a Hasbro, and it is someone who is going to be at our Fan Fest, and he's going into the St. Louis Hall of Fame, and that is Greg the Hammer Valentine with his clotheslining action.
It still works.
Yeah, and it still works. But the figure is pretty mint. Not really anything marked on him. On his ass, it still says the hammer, and it's clearly on there, so not rubbed off or anything like that. So perfect little pickup.
Don't get too excited and move it off with your thumb, Jim.
Well, so the funny thing about when it comes to figures, action figures, with riding on the butts, the butt is normally what sits on the back of the package. And when it gets moved around, it normally shimmies in the package and it rubs off. So it's normally the first thing that gets rubbed off on an action figure, especially the older action figures like the LJNs. If you guys remember that Hillbilly Jim that I showed you that was still in the package, That figure weighs a ton, and normally it breaks itself off the package. So most people, like in packaging, they'll lay them flat. So again, that paint is on rubber, so it normally rubs the butt paint job off of them. There is a guy at I was going to say Fan Fest, but at the flea market that I always make sure I go to. I'm not going to say or give him a shout out because otherwise you guys will go to him and everyone watching us will go to him, and then I'll be out. But he always gives me a good deal. I never really pay the price that he has on the figures. Nothing that I really was wanting because I was really searching for LJNs, but there was no LJNs at the flea market this time. And it was so shocking because most time, like early last year, there was hardly any. And then all of a sudden, over time, they start showing up. And there was one time I went to the flea market and there was 20 of them, but I already had the ones that were there. And then eventually they would start appearing, the ones that I didn't have. But this time, again, there was no LJNs, but I did find, and I already had them, but like I said, when I find stuff that I know that's valuable and it's cheap, I pick them up. So this guy right here is part of LOD, Legion of Doom. This is Animal, and this is from the AWA line. Now, normally he comes with, he came with a title belt, him and Hawk. And then they would have they call them cloth goods, but they would have a pair of pants that you would able to take off with the belt. And they also had like the dog collars that LOD was famous of wearing down to the ring. But I picked him up for like $3. He wanted more, but I did like a package deal where I picked up the other two that I'm going to show you.
Somebody's been watching Froggy Flips a lot, getting those package deals in.
Yeah, get those package deals in. I got a really clean Buff Bagwell, and he has like an action too, and it still works. But his whole design was pretty clean, pretty still detailed. It's got buff on the side, And the only reason I picked him up is I think my next line that I'm going to go to is the old WCW line. Also, I picked him up because he's been at our Fan Fest, and I was able to hang out with him at the Mac show. And even though we didn't have the best time with him at the Fan Fest, and I say that only because, other people might have had great times with Buff. But, he kind of yelled at our production team because the sound system was too loud. And I get it. He was pretty close to the speaker. But the time that I had with him at the Missouri Athletic Club made up for it because he was very nice. He talked to me and Bobby for the longest time. And we also spoke with him, at least I spoke with him at the CAC last year. He went in for an award there and very open to speaking to everyone and talking the ear off of him. So kind of cool, picked him up. And my last one that I picked up was only because it's such an older figure. Still in the new lines, but Cody Rhodes. This is Cody when he was Stardust. This is the character that he hated the most and pretty much made him leave WWE the first time. Well, probably, I think it was the only time he left. But he thought it was cool that he was going to play Stardust and tag with his brother, Dustin Rhodes, or Gold Dust at the time. But then he started hating that character and didn't think he was going to be able to get out of the shell from that character. He wasn't going to be known as Cody Rhodes anymore. He was going to be known as Stardust. But with all the new action figures, all the AEW figures, and the new WWF figures, when I seen Stardust, And again, the writing on his back is still very crisp. It's like the only rubbing is really on his hands, where I guess they were having them fight each other. Yeah, so I just picked him up mainly because it's an older figure of him. But yeah, so not a whole lot, no LJNs, no big, gigantic, purchase that cost me hundreds or anything like that. But just a nice handful that I can display and even sell, since I already have the animal. I wanted to kind of go over Raw, but I don't want to at the same time. It's a little weird. I watched Raw, and there was a couple good matches. Did you watch Raw, Bobby?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, I knew Nate didn't watch Raw, so.
We are currently practicing on Monday night, so it's hard for me to catch up.
So it pretty much is just like I said, it's WrestleMania season. So there's really no shakeups, and right now they're trying to get everyone who's going to wrestle for what's the pay-per-view they got coming up?
Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, Elimination Chamber. But it's the same people that was fighting for the championship, who wants to fight for the championship at WrestleMania. So it's the CM Punk, it's the Seth Rollins, it's still the same guys. So really, to me, Raw was just let's get another showdown to move us on. So it wasn't, but online, a lot of people were talking, oh, it was a great show. There was a good match between AJ Styles and Dominic Mysterio. And I think that was a good match, or a great match, because it's a match that you haven't seen. AJ's been out, he's been injured, and Dom has become this great heel. Not that he's great at being heelish in the ring. It's just that the public has branded him a heel, so he uses that. So I think, hands down, the match of yesterday's Raw was theirs, because it's something that you haven't seen every fucking Raw for the last 6 weeks. And they even put Braun Breaker came out after the match and tried to spear AJ Styles, and they had set up where AJ fell down and Braun got Dom with the spear, and then AJ and Braun Breaker had this nice face-off, so that's probably going to be an extra match put on the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. But so, to me, a match that we haven't seen, at least recently, because AJ's been out for quite a while. So it was nice to have like a refreshing match that we haven't seen over and over again.
Well, do you think they're losing steam?
Well, it's not that they're losing steam. It's just that creative, they need to do. I mean, you can name the top guys on in WWE. You got Seth Rollins, you got Cody Rhodes, you got CM Punk, you got Drew McIntyre, and then you got sometimes Gunther, because a lot of people say, oh, Gunther's this great champion. I just don't think they're using Gunther as a great champion. But he's got his program right now with Jey Uso, and everything's about Jey. So, I mean, that aside, the top guys for WWE, and they just keep rotating them in and out of different matches, but with the same players. So it kind of gets a little old. I mean, it'd be different if they were pushing other guys that you didn't know. Oh, maybe this guy could make it and outshadow a Seth Rollins or a CM Punk. But right now, they're just, those top guys are the top guys, and those are the ones you see. So maybe it is getting a little stale for me. I fall in and out of love with WWE. I have those periods. The late 80s, early 90s, I wasn't really a fan. And then the Attitude Era started and then dragged me back in. And then WCW with the NWO and then the Monday Night Wars clash. I watched it that whole time where you had to watch both channels or flip back and forth to see what was going on with both channels. But then after they bought, WCW, I stuck around to watch WWE versus ECW or versus WCW, but that even fell short. So then I fell out and quit watching wrestling for the longest time. And like I said, Cody Rhodes, his story was what dragged me back in. But now I'm almost to the point where I'm almost out. Even though I feel like because we do this podcast, and I try to give the results that I should watch it. But one show I have not seen yet was that new one that we talked about, the Legends and Future Greats. And that debuted this weekend, so I have to catch up on that. The only thing that sucks is it's on a different channel, so I don't know how I'm going to see it. Because I cut the cable a long time ago, but you got Peacock that you watch the wrestling, the regular wrestling on. And then you got Hulu that you can watch the day after. And then now you got Netflix that you can watch Raw on. But now they're putting their other shows on another channel. So now you got to figure out how you're going to watch that channel. So, it's kind of crazy, but I'm interested in it. I'm also interested in, as soon as that WWE's ID starts, that's their other TV show that they're going to start producing. And Triple H showed pictures on the internet today that the people that's going to win that program is going to have their own title belt too. So I'm not too sure how that's going to work in the system, if it's just for a prize like a trophy, or if it's something that once they earn that, they're going to go into NXT, and then it's going to be a belt that they can defend. So it's going to be interesting on that.
Well, that would actually be pretty good drama to inject something new into the whole organization as far as storylines go.
Yeah,
You could
and
follow somebody from beginning to end.
Yes, and that's back in the 90s, the one thing I loved was the Tough Enough stuff. It was on MTV, and you were able to follow their career, how they started out as a shitty, can't take a back bump, into working Raw when they graduated. That kind of stuff I love to watch. So I'm kind of interested. There's some clips out there on TikTok that I was able to see some of the LFG show, and the clips seem great. You got Bully Ray out there, where he is like not wanting to shake hands with these guys because they got to earn their respect, and one of them called him out for it, and he's like, basically F you until you show me that you belong here, so that's kind of cool. But the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with, talking about other promotions.
Cat.
Still talking, huh?
Is that your cat, Jim?
Yeah. So I have.
You got to show him to
here.
everybody. He wants to be a part of it. You got to show him.
Well, this cat has been through the ringer. This is Milo. As you can tell, he's missing some patches of hair. He's the most lovable cat, though. But when he was younger, he climbed up on my dining room table set and jumped off and broke his leg. So we immediately had him in a cast, took him to the vet. He had one of those, it looked like a cast you would put on a human. And he probably was home a couple days with that cast and climbed again and jumped and broke his other fucking leg. And then
it's no good luck.
My kind of cat.
Maybe he should stop landing on his feet.
Right. So his feet are set awkwardly. He got in a fight with. We used to have a bunch of cats because we had this girl cat that had a litter, and we kept them all for a while until we can, give them away. But some of them had to stick around, and he got in a fight with one of them and lost, and almost lost his eye. So sometimes it's a little weird. He'll walk around and is like, how cats have like a different layer of a lens. That lens will be showing, and you can just go up to him and kind of do that to his eye, and then his eyelid will go back to normal. But all he wants to do is be held. But we have 3 dogs here too, and another cat, and sometimes they don't like each other. But I want to leave you with, well, let's get this out of the way first. Man, we broke 1,000 subscribers between last week and this week. So I want to definitely give props out to everyone who shared our product, shared our channel, and helped us reach 1,000 subscribers. Now on Facebook, I kept the posting up. We need 17 more. We need 10 more. Then it got down to like last week, and I was like, we need 2 more, guys, just 2 more. And then after the podcast, we had broken the 1,000. And we're still breaking it. We're at 1,007. So we kind of blew past our goal. I mean, that was our goal for the rest of this year. So we kind of blew past that. So the next number is huge, and we're hoping to pull it off. Is 5,000 subscribers. In that tier system on YouTube, it's 1,000, then 5,000, and then so we're kind of interested. Right, it's a hell of a jump, but supposedly YouTube helps you out when you get to the 1,000. So we're at this point where we're in the middle of the road. Is YouTube going to help us out, help us grow? And we're still not going to stop fighting, making us grow. So definitely thank you guys for subscribing to our channel, and just keep showing the love. And every time we post, please share it with everyone else, and post it on all social medias, because that's what I do too. I just post it on Facebook and post sections of it. Can't really post it right over the TikTok, but I still talk about the Squared Ring podcast on TikTok too, just to try to help promote this, because it's an adventure where all 3 of us want to dive into, and been doing it for a couple of years, or a little over a year, all 3 of us together. So it's something we want to continue to grow. So thank you. So without that out of the way, I want to leave you with a quote that we might have to talk about afterwards. So Michael Cole was on, it's not Jake Paul, Paul Logan. He was on his podcast earlier today. And to quote Michael Cole, when they were talking about old school wrestling versus nowadays wrestling, and Michael Cole says, we signed to Netflix because Netflix understands that we are a storytelling entity first. We are not a professional wrestling. Now I can't read my whole handwriting. We are not a professional wrestling company anymore, and we haven't been for many years.
Sounds like he took that right out of Vince's mouth.
So I don't think you can have one without the other for a sustained long period of time.
When I first read that, I was like, that is why SICW is like one of the top premier companies, because we still believe that it's a wrestling company. It's a professional wrestling company. And yes, there's, like Herb says, we could take a storyline for a whole year and capitalize at the end of the year. And we have a great booker, and we have a great promoter. But I think that's one of their issues that they have, is that they're all focused on the storyline, and they're not focused on the professional wrestling. And that's what this that's what this whole, I wouldn't say company or league, or that's the whole foundation of wrestling. It's professional wrestling, you know?
Well, it's kind of funny that they call themselves storytellers and all that, but it's more like children's novels that they tell. They can only go a month at a time. They can't do a long-term story anymore.
Yeah. I
Like
was just
when they did the Bloodline, that lasted long. That was the biggest story. It made it on ESPN and everything else. Like that's what they need to get back to. Something that builds layers and chapters.
And like I said, just 5 minutes ago, that's the story that Cody Rhodes attached to, and that's what dragged me back in. Will Cody defeat Roman Reigns? And then it got twisted, and will Cody defeat Roman Reigns and The Rock? So it was that storyline that brought me back in, because I hadn't watched wrestling, and unless it was the highlights, for the longest time. But that really struck. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. To me, it's kind of a bad thing that they're not focused, and that could be why they have so many TV shows coming out of because if you watch like the last season of Tough Enough, it wasn't people that were in the business. Chelsea Green was in the last season of Tough Enough, but I think she was the only one that was an independent professional wrestler out of that whole group. The rest were all like supermodels or gymnastics people, or the guys were from football, or the guys were from other sports that did not have wrestling involved. And I'm wondering if that little line is the reason why they got two shows going on right now. Break it down here. The WWE ID, that's a little different because that is independent wrestlers that they're picking up, and they're smart. They're picking them up now before they jump to AEW or TNA or anything like that. Like they're signing them to a contract, but yet it's not like a great WWE contract. It's just like, we're going to dangle the carrot to you until we think you're ready to actually come aboard and be in NXT and then go through the system. Where this new one, LFG, is basically, we're just taking a handful of people that we think could be superstars, not really professional wrestling superstars, and seeing what we can pull from there. But I don't know. In one way, that particular saying is why AEW is not doing good. Because AEW is trying to put dream matches together with no storylines.
AEW failing because they don't have anybody there that can write a story.
So it's a very big yin-yang conflict of how much do you fall in line with just love of wrestling, or how much you want to just be entertained, because AEW is more wrestling, but you get lost because there's no storyline to it, versus WWE is, as he says, is strictly a storytelling, that it's okay if you're a professional wrestler, but we don't really, that don't really matter because we want to tell the story. So it's that yin and yang of what you want out of a promotion, I guess.
I think WWF Films is what killed wrestling for WWE now. So when I started getting into that part of entertainment is, I guess, when they wanted to become just entertainment producers, where wrestling is phased out because there's not a lot of wrestling at Raw.
Yeah, and that's why another reason I got to give Herb Simmons props, that it's the old school style, the old St. Louis, wrestling at the Chase style that we still keep going. And I can honestly say that that's the great thing about Herb is that's what he wants. Chevy, Leave him alone.
Do you want Chevy to leave him alone?
So
That's what Ho's been preaching in the locker room.
Chevy's my little lap dog, and he likes to be all up on these other cats. Of course, they're the same size of him, so that's probably why. But they don't care for him. But yeah, so I just wanted to. I read that. I was like, wow, that's it's true though. I think it started. Unfortunately, I think it started at WrestleMania, and that's what pissed off Roddy Piper and pissed off Bob Orton, and that's what Vince and Hogan wanted. When they brought in Mr. T, I think that's the first phase of it is Piper didn't want to get pinned. He didn't, in his own words, he said basically, you're bringing an outsider in, I'm going to beat the piss out of him, because he doesn't belong in my company. And, Vince and Hogan wanted the entertainment side of things. And I think really WrestleMania is what started this, because even when TNA began, they brought in one of the football teams, the Tennessee Titans. They would just show up in the crowd just to watch the shows. And eventually they got involved with Jeff Jarrett, and they had matches with some of them. But they wrestled. They weren't. Clearly, if you watch it, Mr. T at WrestleMania 1 didn't know anything about wrestling. He didn't know how to work. He didn't know the rules because he kept interfering too much, which caused Hogan not to be able to work well with the other guys. So it was, in my view, WrestleMania 1 was probably the downside to wrestling shows being called professional wrestling. But on that note, I think we can call it a great episode. Thanks again to Kenny Kingston, the Iron Pitbull. Thanks to the subscribers for doing wonders the last couple of months, because you took us from 500 to 1,000 pretty damn quick. So hopefully we can keep that rolling and have a great 2025. But you guys got anything else?
Just a thank you to all the subscribers, like you said.
All right, awesome. Well, then from the Squared Ring podcast, we say thank you, and we'll see you again next week. You guys have a good night.
We'll see you on the 22nd.